At this time, I want to invite you to join in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified, and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. This meeting is open to the public, and the public is welcomed to attend in person. All persons wishing to attend the meeting by virtual means may do so via YouTube, Sumter School District Board meetings, and Sumter School District's Facebook page. Vision. Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Mission. Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global success. Your board members are yours truly, Barbara Jackson, Area 7 Chairwoman, Dr. J. Frank Baker, C8 Vice Chair, Dr. Darrell McGaney, Area 5 Clerk, Mr. Brian Alston, Area 1, Mrs. Cheryl Ray, Area 2, Mr. Mac McLeod, Area 3, Dr. John B. Hilton, Area 4, Dr. Gloria Rose Lee, Area 6, Dr. Sean T. Reagan, Seat 9. We still are waiting for the Deputy Director of Installation and Support from Shore Air Force Base. But Dr. Martin Knox is our superintendent, and Ms. Amy Hansen is our administrative manager. This meeting is now called to order. Welcome to our first in-person meeting without limited seating since the COVID-19 pandemic began. We are certainly pleased to have you join us this evening. We are equally pleased to welcome our online viewers. Are there any objections to the approval of the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. 3.1 is the announcements. I would just like to take a brief moment to provide a brief update as it refers to the South Carolina School Boards Association Annual Conference. Let me preface this by saying the informative workshops provided by SCASPA have always been vital to our role as school board members. However, the sessions provided at this conference, they were timely, accurate, and above and beyond anything previously shared, in my opinion. Having been afforded the opportunity to attend these sessions with colleagues from around the state as well as from the district, provided a wealth of wisdom and sharing of practices that can only make us stronger as a board. The session leaders and workshop facilitators were most capable of their presentation, and I'm encouraged by what their offerings can afford us as individuals, but most importantly, as a board. I hope that we can and will plan future training opportunities within our district to follow the pattern. In addition to my attendance was Mr. Alston, Dr. Lee, Dr. Reagan, and Mrs. Ray. And I would like to ask that each of them please provide some brief highlights from a session or sessions that you may have attended. And it's in no special order, just follow in any order that you so desire.
Dr. Jackson, this is Dr. Lee. The teamwork and building on the teams of how we can better assist our schools, our teachers, as well as our superintendent was very important to me. And I really felt that it was a great feedback for everyone that was there.
Just a moment. I did not ask for the approval of the agenda. Please pardon me. Put it to the head and not the heart. Did I ask for approval of the agenda? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, all right. Thank you. The agenda was approved. So thank you, Dr. Lee. And do we have anyone else?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. I also had the privilege of attending the South Carolina School Board Association annual convention. One session that I would like to bring to the attention of this body and the community was a session entitled Bias by Us, Implicit Bias Awareness, the Hidden Biases of Good People, Implications for P-12 Education School Boards by Reverend Dr. Bryant T. Marks, Sr., Founder and Chief Equity Officer for the National Training Institute on Race and Equity, who also serves as a Morehouse College psychology professor. Now I'm going to give the same caveat that he gave at the beginning of his presentation. Deep work on diversity, equity, inclusion. Implicit bias is usually awkward, messy, uncomfortable, emotional, and difficult, but please just accept it. We all have biases, but the impact of our biases on others depends on the roles we play in society. Implicit, unconscious bias are stereotypes, group trait associations that affect how we think, evaluate, feel, or behave in an unconscious manner. These biases, which include both favorable and unfavorable perceptions, are activated involuntarily and without an individual's awareness or intentional control. And this showcased in the following ways through our thinking, with judgment and decision-making, our feelings or prejudice of dislike or liking someone based upon group membership, or our behavior or discrimination, positive or negative treatment of someone or a group. The potential impact of implicit bias or equity on school boards, the hiring of senior leadership, such as superintendents, principals, etc. Implicit bias or equity can affect job description, sourcing, recruiting, initial cuts, interviewing, offer negotiations and onboarding, or decisions related to talent skill development on school leaders, mentoring assignments, performance evaluations and promotions, or prioritizing policies, the level of advocacy zeal for certain populations or policies, our budget decisions, conflict resolution strategies, and weighting of arguments. Also, the decisions on controversial topics such as school openings and closing, or mandatory masking, or the elephant in the room that we don't like to talk about, critical race theory. And it's one of the things that I thought was most profound was the last bullet point, was self-interest of being reelected, and how that potential impact of implicit bias and equity plays on school boards. Some interesting facts that were shared was performance being equal, K through 12 teachers have lower expectations and display less social comfort with Black and some Latino students than their white students, and that's backed up by various researchers. when we talk about discipline in schools, black students are overrepresented in out-of-school suspension, in-school suspension, referral to law enforcement, expulsion, corporal punishment, and school-related arrests. And there is a positive association between biases, whether implicit or explicit, and the disciplinary gap. And that concludes my announcement based on the implicit bias awareness session that I attended.
Thank you, Mr. Alston.
Okay, I attended one of the sessions with the speaker, Kyle Maynard, who spoke on no excuses. He is a young man who was born with congenital amputation, which means he has no hands and not any legs. There was sort of a foot on the end of his short legs, but he had that major disability. But in spite of that, he's an extreme athlete and a best-selling author. And he talked about when he was a student, how he wanted to be an athlete. In particular, he wanted to be a basketball player. And he said that he prayed every night that he would grow arms and legs. And of course, he knew that that wasn't going to happen, but he wanted it to happen. So he then spoke of teachers who had helped him and coaches. He became a football player. They helped him get a strategy for that. He said he always surprised people because he was down low and he'd hit them in the shins and knock them down. And then he also they helped make some accommodations, and he became a championship wrestler. And now as an adult, he does a lot of mountain climbing and all sorts of things with extreme sports. Inspirational as far as talking about how, as educators, we can help students with disabilities. But as he was talking to school board members, he was saying, you know, there are no reasons for us making excuses to do the best job that we can do, that we just need to get the job done. So I thought that was a good point to make and something for us to think about.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ray. Okay, and last but not least is Dr. Ray.
Yes, Madam Chair. I too attended the conference as well. And as you mentioned before, the sessions were very informative. And so tonight, I wanted to highlight one of the sessions that I attended. And it was called Removing the Stress from the Necessary Tension Between Governance and Administration. I really thought that this was a very informative session and much needed. For any members of any board that kind of sort of don't understand their role between what they're supposed to be doing and what a superintendent or administration is supposed to be doing. There were several takeaways from this particular session, and I will be glad to share this document, Madam Chair, with Ms. Hanson, to give to the members of this board to bring their attention to the information that was shared at this particular session. Two of the things that I saw that I believe that were great takeaways were the point that was made about being intentional, about building relationships with other board members and the superintendent. And the other one was being intentional about reducing the likelihood that organizational dysfunctions will occur by recognizing and avoiding blind spots and fault lines. And so it was packed with information, and Attorney Charles Boykin led this session and did an excellent job. And that ends the part that I wanted to share about the conference. But I'm looking to my right, and I think I can share that I got another gift from Sumter Career Center. And so it's over here, and I'm not sure who it's from, but I wanted to tell them thank you because this was from the Sumter Career Center. So I believe this is for board appreciation as well. So thank you very much. And for all the other gifts. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reagan. Trustees, are there any additional announcements? If not, I would like to just say to Dr. Martin Knox, just take a moment to tell you that, we're very proud of you. And at the same time, let you know that we hope that your venture or your superintendency in Raytown C2 school district will prove to be all that you want. I know that we will miss you. There's a lot of takeaway that all of us can relate to during your tenure here. And I hope that you will realize that you always will have friends here in Sumter and will always welcome you back home. We appreciate you and we do thank you. Okay, any additional announcements?
I too would like to tell Dr. Knox congratulations, and I am very proud of you, and I pray that everything that you are seeking in your new government, that it be a great success for you and all those who are about to receive the great things you're about to bring. Congratulations.
I too like to wish the superintendent well in her new adventure and endeavors. May wish you much success.
And I would like to add to what Dr. Reagan said. If you would like to get copies of any of the handouts that they posted, you can go to the SCSBA website, and those documents are available. There were some excellent sessions there. And one thing that I would like to seriously see is that we take advantage of some training for our board as well in the near future. That's just a recommendation. Okay, if we don't have any additional announcements, we're now down to Dr. Hilton. Do you have any information to report?
Yes, ma'am. There's a handout that's laying on your table there in front of you. It gives a synopsis of some activity over in the legislature this past week. The most interesting part is the top of the page, where they talk about giving some pay raises. There's a discussion regarding a teacher pay raise of $4,000 a year. There's talk of a 5% pay raise for bus drivers, a talk of increasing teacher supply stipend, providing some more money for capital improvements to disadvantaged school districts, and some money for buses, and additional money for teachers for the virtual South Carolina program. And then there are lots of other items that have been discussed at the State House this week, but I'll leave you to read those at your leisure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hilton. We're down now to committee reports, and I would just like to say that there is no Citizen Advisory Committee update tonight. However, I look forward to the committee coming together again in April. So now we're down to Facilities Committee. Dr. Reagan?
No, ma'am, no report tonight, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Ray, Finance?
We will be setting up a meeting, a committee meeting in the next, probably week after next, before the next board meeting. Also, Madam Chair, I'd like to remind you of our recommendations that we get a presentation on Title IX with the timeline and the funding source pertaining to that, and also a presentation on revising our salary scale.
Okay. And those requests have been submitted, Mrs. Ray?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All righty, we're down now to Mr. Alston, the Policy Committee.
Madam Chair, there's not a report this evening, but I will ask that the administration, along with Mrs. Hampson, to look at dates to address policies that have been previously identified for continued review, those that have been identified for future discussion, and some policies that relate to the realignment study that I feel that needs to be addressed in a timely manner, so that the policy committee could have time to review those and make some adjustments to those as we see fit.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Alston. Okay, Dr. Baker, the
Uh,
transportation ad hoc.
No report at this time.
Okay. So that takes care of our committee reports. So now we're down to the discussion of Sumter School District mask mandate safety protocol. Trustees, this was a requested item for the agenda, and while it's not an action item for this meeting, we will hear a brief presentation regarding a public mask survey that is currently ongoing. After this presentation, I will open the floor for comments. And Dr. Martin Knox, would you please share this presentation?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, Ms. Galloway has submitted a presentation for the board's review regarding the data and results that have been ascertained as a result of the implementation of a survey regarding our community input regarding the masking options for our school district as we continue to move forward. So Ms. Galloway, are you prepared to share that presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to share my screen. Hold on a second, please.
And so while she's doing that, we administered the survey over the past 2 weeks. We did it electronically, and we also made hard copies as we've done in the past for our community to engage in sharing their voice. Ms. Galloway has collected that data, and as Dr. Jackson just stated, it is ongoing, but we will reveal the data as it stands as of today at this time.
Good evening, Chairwoman Dr. Barbara Jackson, Vice Chairman Dr. Baker, members of the Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Dr. Martin Knox. Tonight, I'm going to present a brief overview of the data we obtained from the face mask survey. Overall, to date, we've received 5,675 responses. This includes our responses from our online survey, in addition to responses that were submitted as a paper copy. And so, as you can see, 40% of those responses were from parents, 30% of those responses were from students, 24% of the responses were from employees, and 6% represented our community members at large. So overall, based on the survey response, 58% of those who responded indicated that face masks should be optional in our schools, and 42% indicated that Sumter School District should continue to require students, staff, and visitors to wear face masks in our schools. This final slide just shows the data that we've been tracking on our COVID-19 dashboard. And as you can see, from when we returned from the winter break until now, the numbers have been steadily declining. So with the number of positive staff from January 1st to 7th, it went from 79 to 8 for the last week of data that we've obtained. For positive students, we started off at 361, we're now down to 45. Quarantine staff, we began at 184, we have declined to 13. And then our number of quarantine students began at 2,161 and was down to 238 last week. So as you can see, our numbers are steadily declining. Those are the results from this survey that we shared with our community, and we'd be happy to entertain any questions.
What I would also like to add with this, we continue to monitor the data around the state, and I believe around the state of South Carolina, all of the communities are still in a high rate, with the exception of about 25 that are at a medium rate of transmission and positivity, and Sumter community is within that 25 number that I just mentioned. And there has also been a change in the procedures from the federal guidelines, where face masks are no longer required on public transportation or our school buses. So those are the two components that have taken place since the last time we had a conversation, or since the last time we had a meeting. The other component is there's been a shift as well in the CDC guidelines in terms of how we quarantine students. As you all know very much so, we have been in compliance with those guidelines that have been designated by the CDC and by DHEC. And at this time, if there is less than 10% of our students who are being quarantined over a 2-week period, then we can look at the manner in which we are quarantining kids or staff when they come to school in a rate of positivity. So we've made those adjustments, and we continue to adjust quite frequently as these changes occur. Ms. Galloway, is there anything else that I may have missed or that you wanted to contribute to something that I've shared?
No, ma'am, you touched on every single point, talking point for that.
Oh, did I take your point?
No, I just had them, I had them written out just in case we needed to touch on things, so you covered that very nicely.
It was telepathy.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have a question. Repeat what you said about, the communities across the state,
Yes, sir.
the rate of, infection or positivity or whatever. Say that part again.
So the data that we've just reviewed and as reported throughout the state of South Carolina, there are 25 areas, if you will, that are at a medium rate. The rest of the areas are still at the high transmission. Sumter falls in that 25.
In the medium rate.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, Brian?
I know Ms. Galloway stated that that was a combination of online and paper. Has all the paper applications been submitted to date that she's received so far?
Because they are paper, I cannot say that they have been completely submitted because they're being mailed in, they're being dropped off at schools, and they're being dropped off at the office. So there could have been some that have been delivered today. So the ones that she has actually collected were the ones, Ms. Galloway, when did you compile those, the last paper copies that we received?
This afternoon at 3 o'clock, I received paper copies from about 5 or 6 locations.
So we still may have copies out there that have not made it to Ms. Galloway's desk.
Okay. I don't really have a question, it's more so a statement, and Dr. Marnox, you hit on the point about the difference between the high and the medium. And just in preparation for this meeting, I was just looking at our neighboring counties, where they fall, and Sumter falls in medium along with Calhoun and Lee County. But then Richland, Clarendon, Florence, and Kershaw counties are all at high community levels of transmission. And my concern is the commuting patterns of our students, our staff, and our communities. I know, and Dr. Baker, you can speak to this as well, in our neck of the woods, and remember, majority of our community does business in Kershaw County across the county line. And just how that's gonna impact if we lift masks in Sumter School District, looking at areas that conduct business or where they work, live, or play, parents work, live, and play across county lines where there's high transmission, and that creeping back into Sumter County. That's my only concern moving forward. I see the survey results, and I'm glad to see the number of responses to the survey. It's just concerning that we have neighboring counties that are still at high transmission rates, and we can't look at this as a Sumter isolated issue or something in a silo approach.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, Dr. Hilton was talking to me.
No, I was not. I was just moaning. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Galloway, for your report there, and thank you, Dr. Marnox, for the additions there.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have any additional questions, so we're now down to the superintendent's report.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening again, Dr. Jackson, Vice Chairman Dr. Baker, members of the Sumter School District's community, and our school board. I'd like to begin, first of all, I don't have a tour of Sumter report, but I'd be remiss if I did not thank Ms. Dantzler and her team for being here this evening and for opening your doors to our wonderful Manchester Elementary School. As always, when I walk into Manchester, I always look at the floor because I can see myself. So make sure you tell your staff kudos as always. Make sure staff understands and knows that I appreciate the beautification of the walls with student work because it speaks to affirmation and commending our students for the work that they do. I always have this philosophy that when you walk into a building, the walls should talk to you. And whenever I come here, the walls speak very loudly to me about the work that's happening here. So thank you for having that student-centered environment. At this time, We will go to the superintendent's report, and Ms. Miller, thank you for being here this evening. Once you finish the report, you can log off, but if you would go ahead and do 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3, the Office of Finance, General Fund Revenue and Expenditures through January 31st, 2022, capital projects update for January 31st, 2022, and the fiscal year 23 budget calendar.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Chairwoman Dr. Barbara Jackson, Vice Chair Dr. Frank Baker, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Martin Knox. This evening, we have the January 31st, 2022 revenue and expenditures for the general fund. The largest fluctuation from last month's projection is in the revenue code 3-825 new school tax credit, which is the tier 3 state tax revenue. This is now being projected to be approximately $204,000 more based on revised information received from the South Carolina Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office. That amount fluctuates each year, as when the budget is finalized, those figures are preliminary from the state. The total projected revenue for fiscal year 22 is now projected at $127,594,854. Moving down to expenditures, we continue to evaluate salaries and benefits. The principal and interest expenditures have been adjusted for the Energy Savings Program June 1st, 2022 payments that will need to be made. The future utility savings will offset the principal and debt payments over the term of that loan. The total change in fund balance is now projected to be a break even with minimal change to the fund balance. Please keep in mind that we will continue to review the projection as we progress through the remainder of the fiscal year, as these amounts will continue to fluctuate. Are there any questions on the general fund as of January 31st, 2022?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Miller, did you say we will break even?
Yes, sir. We're projecting the change in fund balance to be $677, as you can see in the third column.
What exactly, okay, let me make sure, because I'm looking at this correctly. So our actual fund balance is what exactly is our fund balance right now?
The fund balance as of June 30th, 2021 is $32,626,731. And with the projection of $677, that would bring that to $32,627,408.
And that's gonna allow us to break even?
Yes, sir. The budget was budgeted to be a break even, as you can see in that first column where the change in fund balance had a 0. And then if you go over to the third column, instead of the 0, you see $677. Which is almost a break even, which means nothing is being added and nothing is being taken away. 677 is projected to be added, which is a very, very small percentage of the fund balance.
And we're on schedule to break even, and that's including all the COVID funds we receive as well?
No, sir, this is just your general fund.
Okay. Okay, I think that might be where I'm a little off. So this does not include all the monies we receive for COVID, from the federal government?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. Each month I just present what's in the general fund.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And if you'd like, we can provide a presentation as to where we are in terms of the utilization of those funds that you just referenced, because they continue to change based on when matters are approved. But
Yes.
it is a separate item from the general fund.
Yes, ma'am, I would like that because I was just making some notes here. Fiscal year 18, 19, 19, 20, and 19, 21, we received some funds from the federal government for COVID, am I correct?
We did. You said 18, 19, it should have been 20.
I'm sorry, 18, 19, 19, 20, 2021, FY?
2021, 20.
Correct. We received something each year from the federal government?
It was over month spans, yes.
Yes, ma'am, I really would like to see some type of chart that's showing what we received in fiscal years, those fiscal years. And also, what I'll be getting in the fund balance would have been for those years with and without those monies.
So it does not include, the fund balance does not include those monies at
Correct,
all?
okay, correct, but I understood, that's where I got thrown off at. So I would like to, if you could still show what came in those FY years.
Ms. Miller, so, for our finance meeting or for the next board meeting, let's go ahead and resurrect those presentations that we did with the, monies that we received through ESSER and CRF to, talk about where we designated those funds and where we currently stand, as well as the approvals that just came through with some of the funds.
Yes, ma'am.
And may I just add one thing as well, also making my notes, can you just, maybe show where, what was, the COVID funds, what did the departments get, like the technology department, operations?
Sure.
And can we see that as well?
That would come in the pie chart that we presented previously.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions on the general fund, you have the capital project spreadsheets in front of you. And if you have any questions on those, I can try to answer those at this time.
Are there any questions?
Ms. Miller, are you okay for 4.3? You want me to do it?
I can do it. And then the last item is the budget timeline for fiscal year 23. This is just information for the board to let you know where we stand. We've already looked at the staffing and student enrollment allocations. We've met with the majority of the principals at this point as the executive leadership team. And we are working on meeting with department heads in March. And then we'll receive input from the Teachers Advisory Committee. And then I will meet with each of the department heads and have everything wrapped up and completed by the end of March. And then we will discuss at the next board meeting, March 28th. I will go over the budget process again and explain the general fund versus the other funding sources. Then it looks like in April, I will discuss the same thing that was discussed with the board at the finance committee meeting. And then on April 25th, the tentative budget will be presented to the board. We will then have budget hearings in May of 22. We will then present the budget to county council at some point in May. We don't have the exact date of that at this time. And then the board will adopt the budget in June, on June 13th, 2022. And all these dates are subject to change.
Thank you, Ms. Miller, and I appreciate your leadership. You can log off at this time.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
That concludes the superintendent's report, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Ms. Miller and Dr. Martin Knox for the report. We do appreciate it. Okay, the agenda now calls for the board to enter into executive.
Dr. Jackson,
Yes?
can we look right back at 3.4? I just wanted to make note that I've had quite a few teachers that have contacted me saying that they spend a lot of their instructional time during the day telling kids pull their mask back up. You know, and I know that that's an issue, and I've had to deal with it myself. But I know Mr. Austin was saying that we got people going out, you know, in other communities. Well, they're not wearing the mask in the other communities. A lot of people aren't. Anyway.
Okay, so what are you asking for?
Now, I just wanted to make that statement, that I had quite a few teachers saying that there's been a lot of instructional time telling the kids to pull their masks back up, so they're not wearing them correctly already.
Okay, all righty, thank you for the statement. Yes, Dr.
That spurred something for me to bring up, what Mr. McLeod said. It's not an action item tonight.
No.
Because the survey is still ongoing, correct, Dr.
That's right.
Knox? And it'll go through Tomorrow.
Well, it's closed tomorrow, but we still will receive paper copies because until.
Factory.
Yes.
So I wanted to be sure that that's what we're moving into.
All right, yeah, that, tonight was just to give us an overview of where we actually are as of today, and knowing that we still have tomorrow information, and that might take a couple of days for it all to get in from all of the schools for paperwork, the paper copies getting, and be put into the, information. So, thank you, Dr. Baker and, Mr. Cloud. Okay, we're now, down to executive session, and I too would like to echo and reinforce what Dr. Martinox said concerning Ms. Dansler and her awesome staff. We do appreciate all of you. Just know that you don't go unnoticed. So, thank you. All right, so that being said, there is no set time frame for this portion of the meeting. We want to invite our in-person guests as well as our online viewers to join us again when we return to open session. If you are unable to be with us at that time, please continue to be safe and have a pleasant week. Trustees, is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Madam Chair, I move that we enter into executive session, receipt of legal advice related to a potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client relationship and discussion incident to proposed property contractual arrangements and personnel matters related to the superintendent.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion.
Ms. Ray, second.
Ms. Ray, second.
Mr. Ray. There is a motion and a second that the board enter into executive session for receipt of legal advice related to potential claim and other matters covered by the attorney-client relationship and discussion incident to proposed property contractual arrangement and personnel matters related to the superintendent. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote. The motion passes.
Superintendent has made it known that she has taken on her new position at Raytown. I'd like for the board to show their appreciation, allow the superintendent to use all of her leave time until it is exhausted and focus on her new district, and then pay the remaining of her balance of her contract in full. And in her absence, allow Dr. Brenda Hefner to serve as the lead administrator and place a moratorium on all administrative and district level positions until a new superintendent is selected, effective immediately.
Second.
There you go. Here you go, Amy. Got a motion and a second on the floor, you gotta carry it.
But
That's the motion.
may I just ask a question here, point of order? Was this actually discussed in executive session?
We just talked about her time.
Madam Chair,
No,
No.
Madam Chair, point of personal privilege.
Got a motion and a second on the floor,
And
Madam
this-
Chair. You
and
got
she
to
has
carry the
asked for
motion.
discussion as well.
Yeah, she does have that for discussion, so.
I have to repeat the motion,
Right.
and then I have to ask for a second. Whether or not there are any questions.
That's true,
And we
ma'am.
must have a supermajority.
No, not, you have to have a supermajority, you're terminating her.
Okay, there has been a motion and a second to allow the superintendent to use all of her leave time until it is exhausted and focus on her new district. And then pay the remaining balance of her contract in full, and in her absence, allow Dr. Vernon Hafner to serve as the lead administrator and place a moratorium on all administrative and district level positions until a new superintendent is selected effective immediately. Well, is this appropriate?
It's not.
Are
Motion
there,
in a second on the floor, madam, you got to carry the motion.
It's
are
not.
there any questions?
You gotta-
Yes,
Or
this,
discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I thought it was just at the last meeting or last couple of meetings that we had discussion that we would not take action on items because quite frankly, I was crucified by the same body for making a motion coming out of the executive session that was not discussed in executive session.
And it carried and it failed.
It did, but then we as a board had a conversation to say that we would not proceed with that type of practice moving forward.
We cannot discuss what's in executive session. You all knew what we talked about in executive session.
That wasn't even an
We did not
executive
discuss
session
this in
did not
executive
conversation.
session, Jackson.
I don't think that we.
And at the same time,
We
has
did
any
not.
conversation
At
been
the
had
end
about
of the
the
day,
half
at the end of the day, you got to carry the motion to see if it failed. You all can talk all night long, but when you carry, you got to carry the motion.
And that's fine. But my question is, has Dr. Hafner been contacted to see if she's willing to fulfill those obligations?
Right.
You're making a personnel choice without even consulting the person that you're going to place the district in their lap.
Madam Chair,
It's an
so the
in,
question is, has Dr. Hafner been contacted?
I don't know. This is new to me.
So if they got her name on the paper, has she been contacted? Dr. McGinn, have you spoken with her, so you put her name on paper?
Ms. Hanson, do you know the answer to that question?
What is the question?
Has Dr. Hafner been contacted?
That wouldn't have anything to do with information that's on the floor.
It does, if you put somebody in a personnel position who doesn't even know what's going on.
The motion has been indicated that person is.
Are there any other discussion?
Where's the attorney?
I don't know, maybe he left.
Somebody can call him.
He was in the hall?
That's how you get it together, start going down.
Yeah, he was, Dr. Baker said he was on that hall.
Some crazy stuff. Very conversational.
I have another question, Dr. Jackson.
Yes.
Does any of the board members know about this besides the one who seconded it?
I didn't.
I
That's
didn't.
nothing unusual. I can't speak for the others.
No, I didn't, Dr. Jackson.
I do know that in the past, when the superintendent decided to stay until his last day, he was given that opportunity. Although he was asked to allow someone else to come in, but he said that I'm staying until my last day based on my contract. And that was allowed. That's all I do know. So, Amy, give us a second.
Madam Chair, if I ask an additional question of Reverend McGaney, in the interim until we get legal, I guess, in the room, what is the, I understand what your motion, but I'm trying to get clarification on the moratorium piece. I don't need it, that's not gonna, I can read, I can see the motion in front of me.
Yeah, okay. I know. He's on the phone. You can just repeat that with her, please. Thank you.
the motion was to allow the superintendent to use all of her leave time until it is exhausted, but she, in the meeting, she said, in the boardroom, she said.
Dr. Jackson.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, you're aware of what happened, what was said in the boardroom. Until it is exhausted and the focus on her new district, and then pay the remaining balance of her contract in full. And in her absence, allow Dr. Brenda Hafner to serve as a lead administrator. And the fourth thing is place a moratorium on all administrative and district level positions until a new superintendent is selected, effective immediately. That's the motion. It was second. And
No.
no, she's not. It say, and then pay the remaining, to use all of the leave time until it is exhausted, and I'm assuming that is what that is saying, to allow the superintendent to use all of leave time until it is exhausted, and the focus on her new district. Yes, I well, Dr. Brenda Hafner's name is here. I don't know whether all of that has been figured up or not. I really don't know. This is new to me. So I don't know what this actually means as far as she's concerned. I really don't. But this is the motion, she's not asking for that. And she really was planning to, like she said originally. Okay, so what do we need to go do with the motion?
You got to carry it. You got a motion in a second. You can't leave it on the floor.
Well, the motion was on the floor and it has been seconded.
That's right.
And so you're saying table it?
Can't table it. Okay, so you're saying that if she's not in agreement, repeat that? It could, Motion
if
is-
she's not in agreement, what did you say, Tom, Mr. Duff? Hello? Well, he said table it, and said because if
Can't
she's
table
not
it, you got a
in
motion in a second on that, you got to carry the motion out.
because,
You got to carry the motion.
you dropped it.
He's going through.
You gotta carry the motion, how you know you're gonna pass?
You have to carry the motion, but it's actually it's in disagreement with the contractual matter.
It's still.
But you still have to carry the motion because the motion has been
Well, I don't
made.
know, we can be here all night.
Well, the thing of it is, there is a motion, and I've read the motion, and it has been seconded. So, questions has been asked. So, to carry the motion, all in favor of the said motion, raise your hand.
So you gotta do this in your school.
Oh. And I can't see down there.
Antonio.
No, it's on you.
Oh, if I can get easy. Okay. Where's the motion? No, this is the voting here. Didn't I repeat what's up on the board already?
Yes. You want to repeat it again, then? Just to make sure that I have it right.
Okay. The motion is to allow the superintendent to leave all leave time until it is exhausted and to focus on her new district. And then pay the remaining balance of her contract in full and let her absence allow in her absence allow Dr. Brenda Hafner to serve as a lead administrator and place a moratorium on all administrative and district level positions until a new superintendent is selected effectively immediately. Please vote the wish. Motion passes. Okay, we're now down to approval of consensus agenda.
Point of privilege, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I want for the record to reflect, we are not placing the superintendent on administrative leave. Only the chairman can do that.
You just
I
fired
want the
her.
record to show we are allowing her to use her time for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair.
After firing her.
With no objection, the consent agenda is now approved.
Madam Chair, set up the receipt for the meeting. Thank you.
Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Thank you for being with us this evening. With no further business, this meeting is adjourned.